Following the massive success of Deadlock, Prime Video and another Australian production have teamed together to deliver a 7-part miniseries titled The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. The series, which stars Sigourney Weaver and Alicia Debnam-Carey, is based on the book of the same name by Holly Ringland and recounts the compelling narrative of a little girl who becomes an orphan following the brutal death of her parents and goes to her grandmother's flower farm. The first 3 episodes of The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart do a great job of establishing this. What happened in The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart premiere? The first 3 episodes lay the foundation for Alice's story by showing her tough childhood with her mean dad and the safe place she found next at her grandma's house for abused women. Besides starting a new part of her life, Alice finds out a bunch of stuff she didn't know about her parents. Alice Hart and her parents, Clem and Agnes, live by the water. They have a far-off, hidden home in the woods. They look like a happy family at first glance. Clem hitting Alice and his pregnant wife becomes clear, though. Alice goes out on her own one day and ends up at the library, where she's spotted right away by Sally, one of the librarians. When she sees the marks on her arms, she tells her cop husband, John. The Hart home burned down a few days later. Clem dies in the fire, while Agnes and Alice are found beaten to death. After having her preterm baby, Agnes dies, and Alice falls into a coma. Their baby has almost no chance of living. Sally, who's been without kids for some time, hopes to fill the gap by adopting Alice. But then the girl's grandma June shows up. June hesitantly agrees to look after Alice and give her a tour of Thornfield, the farm where she grows flowers and stuff. Women often find a safe place from mean husbands and hide out at Thornfield. June and Twig are the bosses of the farm, with all the women helping out to keep things going smoothly. Alice is scared at first, and her PTSD shows up whenever she messes up. But she's starting to feel more comfortable there. After the fire, she couldn't talk for a bit, but June promised that if her voice came back, she'd tell her everything she'd been hiding about her parents. Meanwhile, Sally finds out that Agnes named her as the guardian if June couldn't take care of the kids. Sally's husband is surprised and confused by what Agnes did since she hardly knew Sally. But later, it comes out that Sally once had a thing with Clem. She broke it off after finding out he was married and started dating John not long after. At the same time, she got pregnant, but she thought John was the dad. It wasn't until their daughter was found out she had the deadly disease that killed her that she learned this. This was the first time she had met Agnes. June stopped talking to Clem and Agnes after they left, except for Clem's quick mention of Alice. She was worried about having Alice at Thornfield since she thought they only had one kid. Then she finds out that Agnes is pregnant and had a preterm birth. June put Alice first after finding out the boy's chances of living were really low from the doctor. Sally, who really wanted to be in Alice's life, was a tough opponent. So, June calls Sally's husband John after finding out Agnes's kid made it. What's this mean, that she'll hand over the boy? June's not against having boys in Thornfield, but she's worried that having Clem's kid there could be a bad idea because of the town's rough history. There's still a lot we don't know about Clem's childhood, but June did say she saw some dark sides to him back then. She guessed that his mysterious dad was where he got his talent. Could Clem's kid take after his dad and granddad's dark side? Is it a good idea to bring him to Thornfield and risk the same thing happening again with Clem? It's not a shock that June would turn to Sally and her family now, since she was okay with leaving Alice with her before. She knows how much Sally wants Alice, especially after finding out about Agnes' will. Clem's son's situation is easier, partly because there's a will. This way, Sally can have the baby she's always wanted, do what Agnes wanted, and keep Thornfield safe. Even though her husband says no, Sally decides to fight for custody. After not getting through to Alice, June's concerned daughter Audrey comes to the farm without telling her mom, who works at the cafe. June goes to meet Sally after finding out she's there, saying that Sally being there is a problem for Alice and the other women at the farm. Sally knows how serious the problem is but suggests Alice choose if she wants to stay on the farm with the other hurt and traumatized women. June sends Sally to Alice's school, but when Alice tells her to go away, Sally realizes she messed up big time. Upset, she calls John to say she's sorry for taking the wrong path, thinking Alice would fill the hole left by Gemma's death. John and Sally make up, and John says to Sally that he misses being a dad and that they should start a family again. Meanwhile, June's not happy about Clem's kid, his second child, coming home. She's worried that Clem's dad, a Robin Hood-like guy who stole from the rich to help the poor, is why his son acted so mean. June's worried that having a man in Thornfield might mess things up in their well-run community. John's sudden change might be because of what June suggested, that they adopt Alice's sibling and raise him as their own, so she calls him. The third episode of The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart wraps up with a strong montage of three characters making big choices: June making the phone call, Alice telling Audrey to carve her name under her mom's name on the big tree, and John telling Sally that they should stargaze.